My name is Mona Garcia. I'm an RN diabetes educator. I work for Providence Health and Services. Today I have Alejandro Ocaña, a recording artist known as 2Mex, here, and we're going to talk about the importance of diabetes awareness. So can you tell me, what does diabetes mean to you?
Diabetes means to me, it's my new reality. As an undiagnosed diabetic, I lived 43 years of my life just, not taking care of myself, consuming way too much sugar and not taking care of myself, not going to get my checkups. As a grown man, I lived my life a certain way and was pretty fearless, or I just didn't think about it. Earlier this year, my foot started swelling up, and I started feeling my leg was hurting. I brushed it off like most Latinos do. We just kind of let's see what happens in a couple days. I'll be okay. I'm gonna be okay. The pain, the swelling, it was a lot, and it hurt. And after about 4 or 5 days of pain, of true pain, and not even being able to walk right, I just kept making excuses. I'm kind of a workaholic, and I just kept making excuses I'm gonna go to the doctor soon. I've got work to do. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. Finally, about 5 days later, after immense pain, I started feeling faint. I started feeling as if I couldn't think. My memory was escaping me, and I knew I needed to get help. I called my sister and said, "Take me to the hospital. Something's wrong with me." And as she was coming to pick me up, I remember having to use the restroom, I had to pee. And I got up, and as I walked into the restroom, I was already urinating on myself, and I was already losing my functions, and I was scared to death. I went to the hospital, and they told me that I had gangrene, and I had a diabetic stress ulcer, and I was I was slipping into a coma. And but luckily I received treatment immediately, and what happened is that I ended up having to get my right leg amputated under the knee, and I've been dealing with that. That happened, and I got better, and I was in the hospital, and I went to rehabilitation, and now I'm back on my feet. I have a prosthetic, and I'm back to somewhat a normal life, but at the same time now I have diabetes and high blood pressure to deal with. So upon all that realization, I began the education to be more educated by force, not by will, because how we're trying to reach people now to be educated by will. I wasn't educated by will, I was educated by force. And
did you know you had diabetes prior to this?
No, unfortunately I didn't. Like most people, or not most people, but at least most people in my family, or a lot of people that I know, I never went and got checked up regularly. I live a life where I never got my yearly checkup, and the few times that I would donate blood or get checked for different things, I had never received the education about it, and probably just didn't pursue it because I felt invincible, and I felt like it wouldn't affect me. Like I said, by force, I was forced to be educated. But now that I am educated and I'm gaining education on it, I feel like it's my duty to inform all Latinos and all people in general that they need to get checked. To me, it's paramount that all people go get checked and begin a more regiment, education on the sugar intake that they take, because to a small degree, I feel like we're being poisoned by the food and the drinks that we consume if we don't moderate correctly.
Absolutely. They say about 9 out of 10 people have pre-diabetes, and they don't know it. So in your case, you didn't know you had the diabetes.
I've had no idea. As a young man, just freely traveling the globe and living my life as a recording artist, the signs were there. I was always thirsty, but I never paid attention to it. In my specific situation, I had developed a callus under my foot, and when I peeled back the callus, there was a small hole, which is, I guess, a diabetic stress ulcer. And I started, I went on the internet and did some education, oh, you need to put honey on it, yes. Or just real things that do work to a small degree, but it's not medical advice. It's not real medical treatment. In the Latino culture, we definitely deal with the concepts of alternative medicine, and there's a stigma. Growing up, Latinos, we're both Latinos. When we were sick, it was like pour some, drink 7-Up or drink this, and ginger ale or 7-Up, and a lot of these concepts of treating yourself are so false, and so they're just not real. Us as Latinos, we're very scared, maybe because of the financial situations of being scared to pay for your medical bills, or in a lot of cases, fear of maybe your citizenship. You don't feel like your papers are correct because of A, B, and C, or just tradition, just fear that the doctor's going to tell you something that you don't want to hear, and one of the biggest things I see is the fear of a humongous fear of responsibility. People don't want to give up sugar.
Correct.
Treats and all that stuff is so delicious. So, you know what I mean? There's a reason why you don't want to give it up, because the food tastes so good.
And I think too, also in our culture, that food is love.
Food is love.
So if you eat that, grandma's pushing food on you, aunts are pushing food on you, uncles are saying, hey, you want a soda?
I agree.
So I think as we really need to hit our youth all the way up to our adults.
Well, it's education. I feel that education is key. At one point in my life, I weighed 337 pounds, and I remember wanting to go on a diet and going on a diet, and I remember my mom, constantly giving me a certain kind of food that I was trying to not be about. But how do you tell? That's a big stigma in the Latino community. How do you tell your mother that the food she's making is a little too much fat, too much grease, too much sugar? And that is also a big stigma that I don't feel like we need to break it, but we need to break it with education as compared to just breaking it by defying and breaking the hearts of your mom and people like that. I in my case, my sister, her name is Nancy, she was on a road to eating better 6-7 years ago, and I remember having arguments with my parents about how she doesn't want to eat these things, and how my sister was like, I need to eat better, and she has a child, and the grandson needs to eat better, and the grandma and the granddad are like, what do you mean, McDonald's? You love McDonald's. You've been eating, no disrespect to McDonald's, but all that kind of stuff. So I believe that as in my particular case, as a youth, something like a McDonald's or something like a hamburger or an ice cream was a treat that you would get every now and then. But we now live in an age of instant gratification. So now, in the new age of instant gratification, that Saturday McDonald's or that Saturday ice cream or whatnot is every day, multiple times a day.
Absolutely.
And I think that's another thing. We live in a super size me world full of double big gulps and all that stuff. And I personally was one of those people that I would walk around and get a double big gulp, a super big gulp. I got to the point where I wouldn't drink 32-ounce Gatorades, I would drink 64-ounce Gatorades. And I never knew that it was my addiction to sugar through liquids that really ultimately put me in the position to have to get my right leg amputated and almost slip into a coma and pass away. So we have to break those stigmas of sometimes 40, 50, 60 years of the way Latinos perceive their medical and their healthcare.